Have you ever heard a question so unexpected, so piercing, that it shook the ground beneath your feet and forced you to confront the walls you've built around your heart? Imagine this: a lonely, untouchable CEO, a man who had everything money could buy but nothing that truly mattered, standing frozen in his own office late at night when a trembling voice whispered, "Can you be my daddy for one night?" That's where this story begins, because sometimes, the most powerful journeys start not with grand plans, but with a broken request that no one dares to make. Adrian Blackwell was a name people feared in boardrooms. A self-made millionaire by the age of 32, he had carved an empire out of nothing but his grit and relentless drive. To his employees, he was stone-faced, calculated, a man who had no time for softness or sentiment. Yet behind his penthouse glass walls, away from the flash of luxury cars and billion-dollar deals, Adrian was empty. Nights stretched long and quiet. His father had walked out when he was a boy, his mother passed away when he was a teen, and relationships had always ended in betrayal or disappointment. Success had become his only companion. That night, however, everything changed. It was supposed to be another evening of paperwork, contracts, and silence. But then the elevator doors slid open after hours, and a young woman clutching a little girl's hand stepped into his world. Her face was paled, her eyes swollen as if she had cried rivers, and the little girl's gaze carried both innocence and hunger. "I know I shouldn't be here," the woman said, her voice shaking, "but I didn't know where else to go." Adrian rose from behind his desk, suspicion flickering in his sharp eyes. Before he could speak, the little girl tugged her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, is this him? Is this the man you said could help us?" Adrian's chest tightened, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. The child, no older than 6, looked up at him with her wide, tear-filled eyes and asked, "Can you be my daddy for one night?" The words hit him like a bullet. In an instant, memories of his own childhood loneliness surged back, nights he had prayed for a father who never came, birthdays spent staring at an empty chair. For the first time in years, the iron mask on Adrian's face cracked. He froze. He didn't know what to say, didn't know how to react. All he knew was that something deep inside him had shifted. The woman's name was Eliza. She had once been a bright college graduate with dreams of becoming a teacher. Life, however, had different plans. Her husband had abandoned her and their daughter, Mia, leaving them with debts that swallowed every cent. For weeks, they had been living out of cheap motels, skipping meals, searching for shelter. She had applied for jobs everywhere, but her worn clothes and the weight of her circumstances often led to rejection. She had come to Adrian's company, not as a job seeker this time, but as a desperate mother clinging to her last thread of hope. Adrian, who thought his heart was untouchable, found himself torn. Every logical bone in his body screamed that this was not his problem, but logic failed him when Mia placed her tiny hand in his and whispered, "Just for one night, please. I just want to feel safe." That was the moment Adrian made a choice, a choice that would change everything. He told them to stay. One night, just one night, but one night turned into 2, then 3. What began as an act of charity grew into something Adrian never expected. He watched Mia fall asleep on his leather couch, clutching a teddy bear he had bought for her on impulse. He noticed how Eliza tried to hide her tears while folding the blanket neatly each morning, embarrassed to be dependent on him. Slowly, Adrian began to realize that for the first time in years, his penthouse no longer echoed with silence. There was laughter. There was the smell of warm food. There was life. Of course, challenges came crashing in. Adrian's board of directors questioned why the ruthless CEO was suddenly distracted, skipping meetings, showing up late because he had been making pancakes in the morning. Eliza, too, battled her pride. She didn't want to be a burden, didn't want to be seen as a woman begging for rescue. And then there was Adrian's own fear of attachment, fear of failing the way his father once failed him. Yet through it all, little Mia's presence became the thread stitching their broken pieces together. She drew pictures of the 3 of them, called him Mr. Adrian at first, then Uncle Adrian, until one night, without thinking, she sleepily murmured, "Daddy." Adrian felt something shatter inside him, but instead of pain, It was healing. He realized that maybe, just maybe, he was being given a second chance, not to fix his own past, but to rewrite his future. But no story worth telling is without its darkest hour. Eliza's estranged husband returned, demanding custody of Mia, not out of love, but to control Eliza and the small inheritance she had received from her late mother. The battle that followed was brutal, both in court and in spirit. Adrian used every ounce of his influence, every resource he had, not to win the deal this time, but to protect the family he had unexpectedly found. For the first time, his empire wasn't about him up, it was about love. And when the dust settled, when the gavel came down in their favor, Adrian finally looked at Eliza and Mia with no hesitation left. He wasn't just a CEO, he wasn't just a lonely millionaire, he was a man who had found the very thing he had spent his whole life searching for: a family. So when Mia climbed into his lap one evening, her small hands wrapped around his neck, and she whispered again, "Can you be my daddy?" Adrian didn't freeze this time. He smiled, eyes wet, and said, "Not for one night, Mia, for the rest of my life." Because in the end, life isn't about wealth, or titles, or empires built on ambition. It's about the people who walk into your world when you least expect them, hold out their hands, and teach you that love, fragile, messy, unconditional love, is the only empire worth building.